Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's lesson, CSS Combinators. So, what is a CSS Combinator? It's a way to explain the relationship between selectors. And a selector or a CSS selector can contain more than one simple selector, right? And between these simple selectors, we can have what we call the combinator. And we are going to be taking a look at these combinators. So there are four different combinators in CSS. The first one is the descendant selector. And this selector matches all elements that are descendants of a specified element, right? So that is the first one that we're going to be looking at. The next one is the child selector. The child selector selects all the elements that are children of a specified element. So we'll be looking at that also. The third one is the adjacent sibling selector. And this is used to select an element that is directly after another specified element. So the specified element, you're going to be looking at the uh, adjacent sibling of that selector. And finally, we will be looking at the general sibling selector, which selects all elements that are next siblings of a specified element. So these are the four that we are going to be looking at. Uh, the symbols are for the descendant selector, it's just the space between the selectors. And then for the child selector, it's going to be the greater than sign. For the adjacent sibling selector, it's going to be the plus sign. And then for the general sibling selector, it's going to be the tilde sign. So let's go to the coding and see examples of each of these. So this is an HTML that I took from w3schools.com to make it easy. So it just has the header, which just states descendant selector, then your paragraph telling you what it is, and then you have a div with two paragraphs in there, and then a section and a paragraph in the section, right? And then we have two more paragraphs outside of the div. So if I refresh this, you can see this is how it looks. So what we are going to do here is we are going to be using the descendant selector. And what the descendant selector does it matches all the descendants of a specified element. So, for example, if we want a style, and I'm going to put the style, this is the specified element div, and I'm saying that give me all the p, give me the descendant selectors of all p's that are descendant selectors of div, right? And so when I do this, because of the space, remember I said the descendant selector is just a space, and that's why we have the space between the selectors. So the specified element is div, and then we are using the descendant selectors, and we are trying to find all the p selectors that are descendants of div. Okay, so looking here at our body, h is not a div, p is not a div. We have a div right here, which is the first one. And then we are going to be looking at descendants of uh, div that is a p selector. So we have the first one, so we're expecting to see one. And then we have a second one, so I'm expecting to see paragraph two. And then we have a section, which is also a descendant, but it's not a p. So we are not going to see, but we are going to see the P embedded in the section, right? So this P is a descendant of this div. So we are expected to see this paragraph 3, right? And then we move, and then this P is not a descendant of this div, so it's not, and it's not a div, so this is going to be ignored. This is going to be ignored. So let's see it in action. So I'm going to style the background color and say chat rules, chatters. Okay, so if I refresh this, you can see 1, 2, and 3 is highlighted. The second one we are going to be looking at is the child selector, and this selects all elements that are children of a specified element. So what I am going to do here is, for this example, I'm going to comment out this first example. So we have space, and then I am going to use this example just to make it fast. I'm just going to copy and then paste it in here. Okay, so it's the same code. It's just this is for child selector, and I'm going to comment out this style. Good. So it just has the child selector, and it tells you the child selector, which is the greater than sign, selects all elements that are children of a specified element. The first thing we have is a div with two paragraphs, a section, and another paragraph. And then we have two more paragraphs outside the div. So if I refresh this, you can see what it is looking like. So we are going to do the same thing. This time we are going to use the child selector. So I'm going to do the div child selector greater than and then P. So what this is going to read us is give me all the elements that are children of the specified element, which is div. So the specified element is div. Give me all children of div that is a P, right? Okay. So we first look for the specified element, which is div, and then we are going to look for all the children, which D, which is a P, a paragraph. So this first one, okay, this is a child of div. This is a child of div because it's directly under div. It's not nested and into anything, so that's why it's just a direct child. This section, paragraph 3, is not a direct child of div, right? It's embedded in section. So section would have been a child of div, but section is not a P, it's not a paragraph, and so this does not show. This P is seen like a more like a grandchild, right? And then we have the fourth P, which is actually a child of the div. And then we have these two P's not being children of div. So we are expecting to see 1, 2, and 4. So let's add a background color. And then this time chocolate. Nope, not chocolate anymore. Chocolate. Next. And then when I refresh this, I see 1, 2, 3 is ignored, and 4. So that is how it looks. The next one is the adjacent sibling selector, right? Which is used to select an element that is directly after another specific element. So the clue here is directly after another specified or specific element, right? So the sibling elements must have the same parent, so they should share the same parent. For example, P and this P here and this P here are siblings because they share the same parent. So the sibling elements must have the same uh, direct parent element. And adjacent means immediately following. So immediately following will be, for example, if these two are siblings, right? The one immediately following this div is what is the first one, not the second one, the first one, the paragraph 5. So the element immediately following this div is this first paragraph 5p. So that's how we are going to be looking at it. So let's look at an example. And again, I am going to comment this out. And to do so, I might have to remove this just so I have one complete comment. Good. And then I'm going to comment out the style. Good. And then here, I'm just going to paste in this. So I pasted in the adjacent sibling selector uh, HTML, and it's having two paragraphs elements here, right? And we have a div showing div 1, div 2, paragraph 1, paragraph 2 in this first div. And it has two more paragraphs that is not in a div, and it has a div with paragraph 5 and 6 and 2 more paragraphs outside of the div. Okay, so this is how it looks. I've commented out the styles so I can have it like this so we can see, right? So we are going to do the same styling. Div is our selector. We are looking at sibling selector, so plus, and then we are looking at the P. So we are looking for the element that directly follows a div that is a P, right? So let's go over the code. So this is an H, nope. So this is our first div, and so we are looking for the sibling. Sorry, we are looking for the sibling of div. And these are all siblings of div, this P is a sibling of div, this P is a sibling of div, this div is also a sibling of this div, this P is a sibling, and this P is a sibling. And the way we know it's a sibling is that they have the same parent. And the parent of this div is body, the parent of this div is body, right? The parent of this P here will be what? This div. So that's how we know that this are all children, but we are looking for the first child, or sorry, the first sibling or the direct adjacent element to the div. So if we have this first div, the one that directly follows it is this P. So it's going to be paragraph 3. So paragraph 3 will be colored with the style. Paragraph 4 is ignored. And then we see another div and we are looking for the first one. So paragraph 7 will also be highlighted. So just to check, I'm going to put a background color again, and I'm going to put cornflower blue. So when I refresh it, I see 3 and 7 is highlighted. The fourth and final one is the general sibling selector, and that selects all elements that are next siblings of a specified element. So this time it's going to be all the siblings of a specified element. So let's look at an example. And again, like I've been doing, I'm going to comment out this whole chunk of code and the style, and then I am going to paste in this sample code, right? HTML. So this is the HTML for general sibling selector, right? And for general sibling selector, we are expecting that we are targeting all the next siblings of the specified element. Great. So let me first refresh this so we see how it looks like. We have the H2P, P, and we have a div and a paragraph, some code, and a paragraph. Okay, so if I style this, I have my div, and this time I have my tilde, which is the general sibling selector, and I'm going to choose my P, right? So I'm expecting that I have to look for the selector, in this case would be div, and then I have to find all the next siblings of the selector. So the term next siblings is very important because paragraph 1 is a sibling of div, but it's not the next siblings. We call these ones the previous siblings because it's before the div, right? So the next siblings will be these ones after the div, right? So those are the ones we'll be targeting. So the next siblings of this div, that is a P, will be paragraph 3 and paragraph 4 because those are the P selectors. Good. So now let's color this and see if we are right. And so this time I'm going to use crimson. And now when I refresh this, you can see 3 and 4 have been colored. So that ends this lesson in CSS Combinators. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lesson. Bye.